Hello everyone. In this lesson, we will get our first taste of PHP, which is the language that WordPress is written in. Now, working with a programming language might sound intimidating at first, but that's why we're going to walk through this together, step by step at a nice pace. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay, in our previous lesson, we set up a local dev environment copy of WordPress for ourselves. And now the question becomes, how and where can we get our first taste of the PHP language? Well, in our previous lesson, we also learned how to find the files and folders that power this site. So for example, if you're using local by Flywheel, you can just right-click on your site right here and choose Reveal in Finder, or if you're on Windows, it should say Show in Folder or Open Explorer or something similar to that. Go ahead and click into that folder, then click into App, then click into Public, and these are the WordPress system files that power your site. Now, before you and I worry about doing anything useful, like maybe creating our own brand new theme, before we get to that, let's first start simple. For now, let's just create an experiment file in this folder where we can try a few simple tests and dip our feet into the PHP waters. Now, it's important to point out that you cannot use a word processing program to create a new PHP file or make edits to an existing PHP file. Instead, you need a dedicated text editor program. Now, most computers do not come with a text editor program out of the box. But luckily, 3 of the best text editors in the world are free to download and use. So if you don't already have a text editor program on your computer, I recommend you download one of the following 3. The first is Sublime Text. This is the text editor that I will be using throughout this course, so if you want to use the same program as me, this would be the choice for you. However, there are tons of different text editor programs out there, and at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter which one you choose. They will all work perfectly for editing PHP code. Okay, so aside from Sublime Text, another great option for a text editor program is Visual Studio Code. And another great free option is the Atom text editor. And again, you do not need to download all 3 of these. Any one of them will do the trick. So just pause the lesson right now and go ahead and download and install one of these 3 text editors. Okay, and at this point in the lesson, I will assume anyone watching now has a text editor ready to use. So go ahead and open up your text editor program. And if you don't already see an empty screen where you can begin typing, just click on File New, or if you're on Windows, you can usually just press Control-N, or if you're on Mac, you can press Command-N to get a new file. Okay, so in this blank canvas, why don't we type out, "This is a test." Okay, then let's go ahead and save this as a PHP file into our WordPress system folder. So click File Save or Control-S or Command-S, and we need to save this file into a very specific location. We want to save it into that folder where all of the WordPress system files live. So within your user account home folder, click into Local Sites, then click on the name of your site, then App, and then Public. Okay, and this is that same directory that we've already seen twice now, with the different WordPress files and folders. So let's save our new file into this folder, and the name of our new file only matters in the sense that we don't want to overwrite any of the existing WordPress files. So why don't we name our new file experiment, and this is the important part, .php. So save it as experiment.php. Cool, so now in that same folder with all of the WordPress files, if I scroll down to the bottom, there is our brand new little experiment.php. Now let's try to view this in the web browser. So back in your browser, if you visit your local dev environment copy of WordPress, right, your URL might be a bit different. If you're using Flywheel, remember you can always use the View Site button. But at the end of this URL, add on, make sure there's a / and add on experiment.php. Press enter and you can see we are viewing that brand new file that we just created. Now I want to point out that this is not how you add new pages or URLs to a WordPress website. So you would never do this in the real world on a live public website. We are only doing this for educational and testing purposes. At the end of this lesson, we are actually going to delete our experiment.php file. However, for the time being, this is a great place to try and write our first bit of PHP code. So why don't we jump back into our text editor and let's delete the "this is a test" message, and instead let's write a tiny bit of HTML so we can then see how PHP fits into the equation. So just as a test, let's create a heading level 1 HTML element and say, this page is all about Brad. And then maybe right below that, I want a less important headline that reads, all about Brad. Okay, let's save this and refresh the page. All right, so nothing too exciting here. This is just a bit of HTML, a heading level 1 and a heading level 2. But remember, we are not editing an HTML file, we are editing a PHP file. So if this is just HTML, what does PHP look like and what can it do? Well, check this out. Maybe on a new line above this code, type this out with me. Less than symbol, question mark, PHP, and then a space, and then a question mark, and then greater than symbol. So what does this code mean? Well, this first chunk that I have highlighted right now, this begins PHP mode, and this chunk ends PHP mode. Okay, so in between those, where my cursor is right now, that means we are in PHP mode. Now, when we are not in PHP mode, like down here, right, because this closes PHP mode, this code down here is just regular old HTML. But up here, while we are in PHP mode, we can write magical, beautiful PHP code. So check this out. Type this out with me. Echo. Echo is how you output things to the page while you're in PHP mode. So echo, and then let's write 2 plus 2. Then let's save this and refresh in the browser. And there we see 4. Now you might be underwhelmed. You might be wondering what is so exciting about 2 plus 2 equals 4. Well, it's exciting because we could never do that in regular old HTML. HTML doesn't have a brain. You just type out exactly what you want and that's exactly what you get. PHP, on the other hand, has a brain. It is a legitimate programming language. We can give it equations, we can tell it to talk to databases, we can have it resize images or send out automatic emails. We can make PHP do just about anything for us. And what's cool is that the general public that's visiting our website, they don't see our PHP code. They only see the final product. So for example, here in the web browser, if we view the source of this page, so view page source, so here we can see the HTML code, but notice we don't see 2 plus 2, we just see 4. This is because PHP is a server-side language. And that means that all of our PHP code runs on the server, and then only the result of that code, not the code itself, gets sent to the visitors of our website. So in other words, the server is what's calculating 2 plus 2, not people's web browsers. Let's jump back into our text editor because practice makes perfect. I want to show you that we can jump in and out of PHP mode as many times as we need to. So for example, maybe after this heading level 1, but before this heading level 2, so maybe in between those two lines, I want to drop into PHP mode and maybe echo out the results of 5 times 5. Okay, and then I'll be sure to close out or end PHP mode. Okay, and if I save this and refresh, cool, so in between the two headlines we see 25. So back to the code, you can see that in a PHP file we can seamlessly jump back and forth between PHP, HTML, PHP, HTML. Alright, now before we end this lesson, I want to have you type out one more PHP example. Alright, so on this page you can see that my name is included twice, here and here. Now imagine I legally changed my name in the future. I would have to update my name in both places. Now just updating it in 2 spots isn't too bad, but imagine if the page listed my name 100 times or 300 times. Updating it in all of those places would be very time consuming. So it would be nice, instead of having to hard code my name, if we could just include a placeholder for my name, right? So for example, if instead of Brad right here, it just said blank, and instead of Brad right here, it said blank. And then we could somehow programmatically replace all of the blanks with my name. Well, there's no way to do that with regular old HTML, but we can do it with PHP. So check this out. Up here on this top line, right after 2 plus 2, while we are still in PHP mode, let's add a semicolon. The semicolon tells PHP that we are done with this task and that we want to move on to a new task. So we could begin typing right here where my cursor is, but just to stay organized, I'm going to drop down to a new line. Okay, and right now I'm still in PHP mode. And what I'm going to do right now is create a variable that stores my name. So type this out with me. $, my name equals, quote, Brad. And then just to be safe, why don't we add a semicolon at the very end of the line to tell PHP that we are done with this task. Now let's go over this code that we just wrote. So the $symbol is how you create a variable in PHP. And then this text that comes right after the $symbol, this doesn't matter what you type. I just made this up. There's nothing magical about my name. Instead, we could have typed unicorn or pizza, right? It really doesn't matter what we type here, just as long as it's something we can remember. So this line of code basically creates a sticky note in PHP's memory with my name written on one side, and then on the back of that sticky note, it says Brad. Now what's cool is we can reference this throughout the rest of our page. So now, instead of literally typing out blank here, we can just use PHP to reference this my name variable. So let's delete this first blank. So this page is all about, and then we want to output whatever the value of my name is. So place our cursor here, and then we want to enter into PHP mode. Okay, and remember, echo is how we output something onto the page when we are in PHP mode. And then we just type out the variable name. So $, my name. Okay, and then let's be sure to close out of PHP mode. Cool, so on this line we start out with HTML, then we enter into PHP mode to get that variable value, then we close out of PHP, so then we're back into HTML mode so we can close out the headline. Let's go ahead and do the same thing for this line. So let's delete blank, and then instead of typing this out again, let's just copy and paste it. So select this PHP section, copy it, paste it right here. Okay, now if I save this and refresh, we don't see any difference because my name still equals Brad. But now if we change this variable to equal John Doe and save, cool, it gets updated in both locations. Now again, it's not very impressive because it's in only 2 locations, but imagine if your page was way more complex and that name was referenced hundreds of times. You get the idea. And that's actually going to bring this example to a close. Now, I do want to point out that what we just did in this lesson has absolutely nothing to do with WordPress. This experiment.php file that we just created is not in any way connected to the core of WordPress. However, WordPress is written in the PHP language. And at this point in the course, you are now familiar with the basics of PHP, right? You know how to enter PHP mode. You know how to close PHP mode. you know how to create variables using the $sign, and you know how to output content to the page using echo. And with just that little bit of PHP knowledge in your tool belt, you are now ready to start writing WordPress code. Or in other words, you're ready to use PHP to tell WordPress what to do. And this is where things get fun. So in our very next lesson, we are going to use PHP code to create our own brand new custom WordPress theme. But really quick, before we jump into that next lesson, I want to talk about our experiment.php file. If everything in this lesson made sense, I encourage you to actually go ahead and delete our experiment.php file. You don't need to delete it. You can keep it for reference if you'd like to. I just want to make sure that you're aware that it's not normal to have random extra files sitting in the core root folder of WordPress like this. We only did this for educational testing reasons, so I would strongly encourage you to delete this file, but it's not going to hurt anything, so if you want to keep it there for reference, that's okay. Anyways, I'm looking forward to creating a theme with you in the next lesson, so let's keep things rolling, and I will see you then.